What are your thoughts around PMI becoming involved in the Agile space?
I think it's fantastic. I think that the PMI represents a tremendous community of project managers. I've been a member of the PMI for quite some time. I've been a PMP since 2002, I think. And I think that there's a tremendous community of project managers and leaders and really effective sort of voices that have been underrepresented. And I think there's a great opportunity for them to get involved in Agile, to adopt it, and to help make it successful.
What are your thoughts regarding defining a set of good practices for the Agile certified practitioner?
Yeah, good practices or best practices. I think it's my feeling is there are many sort of very standard or default practices that we know are true, and those are great. And I think the problem when we have good practices, especially as the community grows and the list of good practices tend to grow, it's sort of like you've got yourself a really big toolkit with a whole bunch of tools, and you're trying to figure out which one's the right tool for your particular purpose. You spend more time looking for the tool than actually the goal or the thing you're trying to do with the tool. And so I think it's important that people have some sort of knowledge or grounding in what some of these practices are, but there is no auto answer. There's no, for this problem, go to this tool. And so sometimes I fear that the simple existence of this concept of best practices or good practices, there's no such thing as a best practice because it's contextual. And so I'm glad we're not calling it best practices, but even good practices are contextual too. Something that might work for one team in one context in one organization may certainly not work for another team. And I think as long as we're cognizant of that it's not about what tool you pick, but what the thing is you're trying to achieve with it, I think that's fine.
What trends are you noticing in the Agile community?
I think we've seen it actually for quite some time. It's sort of this concept of doing Agile. And the reality is you can't do Agile. Agile has no practices, but when we talk about doing Agile, we talk about borrowing these practices. We talk about borrowing some of the sort of foundational elements of Scrum and the technical practices of extreme programming and the process improvement elements of Lean, and some other things from things like FDD even and Crystal. So ultimately we call it Agile, and I think we see more of it. And ultimately I think that as long as we try to stay away from defining methodologies, defining the one way we do something, whether it's within an organization or a department or a group or even a team, as long as we keep ourselves open to the different things that we can. Remember, the objective isn't to do Agile or to do Scrum or to do Lean or Kanban or any of these things. The objective is whatever your business objective is, right? So having Agile be the goal is a really silly goal. A much better goal is, I don't know, faster or more productive or better quality or better engagement to customers, or these are all really good goals that we want to pursue. Agile and a lot of these other practices that are converging together help us achieve those goals. So I guess it doesn't matter which practice we choose as long as they work and we constantly look for ways to make them better.
As Agile software development crosses the chasm, what are the major challenges you see facing the community over the next couple of years?
I think there are quite a few of them. I think the biggest challenge is change. So I think that the practices and the fundamental principles that are sort of inherent to Agile, those are pretty universal. It's tough to argue that it's really about people, or it's about delivering working stuff, or it's about collaboration, or it's about being responsive. Those are sort of motherhood and apple pie. The challenging part is how do we get there? How do we do that? How do we transform organizations to actually use that, to leverage these superpowers that we get of faster and better, and what do we do with it? And I think that especially sort of in the context of PMI, we've got a community full of people that for the longest time have believed the right answer is to operate in a particular sort of context or in a particular sort of way. And I think that one of the challenges for them is how to be courageous in the face of how we've always done it. And so clearly Agile values are different from some of the values that maybe we've had. They're sometimes better, but I think that we still have the same goals, right? We still have the same objectives, and I think that as long as we can recognize the fact that we need to change, recognize the fact that change is difficult, and recognize the fact that it's not going to happen overnight. There is no easy answer. It's something we have to work our way through, that we have to iterate our way through. I think we'll be successful. I think when we start to see teams lock down their practices, organizations define how people will work, when we start to say this is the one way of doing things, but we're going to call it Agile, I think those are the challenges that once it does become mainstream, there's going to be the desire to institutionalize it in a very specific and lockdown way.
What are your hopes and wishes for the future of the Agile community?
I think my hopes is I'm really looking forward to seeing new cutting-edge ideas and new cutting-edge things. I mean, especially as we see more members of the PMI, more experienced project managers bring their depth and their experience and their leadership and some of their skills that they bring to bear into sort of this still fledgling community. You know, how to sort of explore different ways of handling risk, of pricing, of bringing things to market, of defining product strategy. So my hope is that we'll start to elevate the Agile discussion beyond sort of some of the basic fundamental things, that the fundamental things will become universally accepted, and now we can look to say, well, what's the next level, right? And I'm hopeful, and we start to see it already, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of it.